All right, we are mocking everybody. Death by Dynasty here, and we're doing a Dynasty Startup Superflex mock draft here tonight. And we got Cole on with us as well, just to kind of, we're going to talk about the picks as we go. So, yeah,
Welcome.
What up?
It's good to be here.
And of
Happy
course,
to have you.
As always, we got our Death by Dynasty merchandise. Cole, you're going to be getting the shirt for sure for coming on the podcast. And if you want a shirt out there, you can go to the description. There's a link for you to go purchase a Death by Dynasty shirt.
All right, so we are good to go.
We got me and you back-to-back ties, so that's a good thing.
I didn't even see where I'm at. 1-7. Cool. I like that. You're gonna steal some from. We're gonna steal some from each other.
I was about to say it's gonna go both ways here.
I love it. All right. Shall we get it started? Let's kick it off. So auto draft team with the number one, which if I feel like you have to go Patrick Mahomes at number one anyway.
Yeah, that makes the most sense for sure.
What?
Oh, you know,
wow.
But
wow,
Tyler,
I would do that though. I would do that though. I said I would think about doing Jalen Hurts 1-1 at this point. So hey, maybe they're thinking what I'm thinking.
And then there you go, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Grove probably pretty happy about that. But Hurts a little younger and he's got great rushing ability. So
shout out to Sleeper for making the auto pick not be like the consensus, like how ESPN is just like automatically takes the top person. That's so frustrating.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, hopefully if that happens in like a real draft, they just go ahead and take like Kirk Cousins 1-1. It's like, don't show up to your draft on time, you get the worst QB in the league.
Hey, you don't talk bad about Kirk Cousins, okay?
I will gladly talk bad.
Dan's trying to keep it. He's trying to keep his trade value up high right now.
He's underrated in fantasy. I'm telling you.
I'll give you that. He's a good pocket passer.
He's still, they're gonna pass the ball like crazy this year.
Yeah, he has 100%.
See, Josh Allen.
See, I would 100% at 2 go Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen. That's what I like. I'm going Jalen Hurts. I think I would like be too scared to go Jalen Hurts at 1-1 a lot of the times and just end up going Pat Mahomes. But man, shout out to that auto pick. I love it. Yeah, how many times is Jersey Shore over here gonna be bragging about how good his mock draft team
is? Honestly.
Ooh, Chase over Jefferson. I like that. I also said that more of just to have a hot take, but
I feel like it flip-flops for everybody. I don't know. Cole, who would you rather have in fantasy, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson for sure, but with this being I'm up, so this is a fun thing.
With
it being a super flex league, like, you know, you have to have an elite quarterback early. It's just who to go with in this situation because the big four are off the board. So, you know, I'm gonna take my sweet ass time looking at this. Just kidding, Justin Herbert.
Nice.
All right, so I'm really tempted to go Justin Jefferson here, but
there's a certain point in the first round where you have to, but like you don't want to miss out on a top QB in
Superflex. I just know I'll be kicking myself later it's the same situation I'm in now. So I think right here I have to do it and just go Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna have a great season.
Did he sign a long-term contract?
Yeah. Huge one. I think he's right. He's currently the highest paid. I know it was more than Hurts.
But we'll see how far Justin Jefferson drops, because if he drops to the 110 where I am, how can I not pass it up? Because at that point there won't be many like top tier quarterbacks left.
I think the Super Fantasy podcast, I think they would grab him. Shout out to them for joining.
That's true.
They're a very knowledgeable bunch. I have a feeling they'd go Justin Jefferson there. But again, there's so many options.
Yeah, definitely go give them a follow on all platforms for sure. We'll be doing some collabs with them. They do a lot of redraft talk when it comes to fantasy.
I do think they do Dynasty as well from what I've been seeing. I've seen them mention it a couple of times on there. I know they've been running for a while now too. There's some of the OGs to the fantasy community. All right.
Sure. I'm also big on Justin Herbert, to be honest with you. Tyler, I know you're not as big, but yeah, like I love the Herbert pick there for you, Cole, because like I just feel like like he has injured wide receivers every year. That wide receiver core is a lot better now with Quentin Johnson. I think he's basically on track for a Hall of Fame career, even though he's kind of gotten worse and worse since his rookie season. But
to be completely honest, I think I was a little overboard. It was a lot of a personal thing for my redraft league because I had him on my team, and there's just so many times where he didn't perform at where I drafted him at. But he has so many weapons. I mean, you can't go wrong there. I definitely would never be mad with him.
the narrative. Joey. Down to your last 3 seconds here.
You're gonna get
he's
so
not getting the
many
shirt.
off of just little shovel passes to Eckler too.
What?
There goes Jefferson.
Did you hear it say "Let's go, team, let's go"?
No.
That's what mine. Right. T-Law. Okay. T-Law was someone who I feel like we saw the value go to rock bottom and then shoot way back up really quick.
Yeah, for sure.
I do not envy this 10th pick here.
Dude, I like my immediate reaction, I'm looking at the queue, I'm going, okay, should I go Justin Fields? But then right below him, just because it's on the sleeper queue, I see Bijan Robinson. It's so tempting. It's so tempting.
Let me see who's that quarterback, Anthony.
A lot of people.
It's a pretty I feel like this is like where officially the tier drops off. I think T-Law is kind of at that border too, but after Lamar Jackson, there's a pretty steep drop from quarterback as far as guarantees, and I think you can start looking positions.
I think obviously Justin Fields had almost historic numbers when it comes to fantasy last year. That he's not going to be able to keep up.
He got a revamped wide receiver room though.
Yeah. I'm taking my time with this just a little bit, kind of looking over some lists right now. But yeah, I got to go Justin Fields there. I mean,
got redemption. And you got him in one league.
That's right, because I traded him away in our actual Dynasty league.
Good pick. The auto draft, shout out to them. Sleeper, really smart auto drafters over here.
Honestly. Yeah, the Bijan pick was pretty tempting, but I got to go get my quarterback who has insane upside. Because honestly, I see in a lot of redrafts that Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are dropping towards more of the end of the first round. And Justin Fields would have been picked earlier in the first round, a few picks earlier.
You see? That's why. I had the quarterback filter up and I'm like, why is Dak Prescott so high up on my screen right now? So the first round's always I feel like when you're breaking down draft, the first round, there's really not much to say because people stick to their guns. But once we get in this 3-4, that's what I'm excited for.
I will say I really like the end of the first round because I got my quarterback now, and now I can still go get a top tier wide receiver pretty early on here in the second round.
See, now here's the first one that I think is a little interesting. I'm not big on Tua, especially after the injury concerns.
I think Dunks has Tua in our league. I think he's just married to Tua.
Doubling down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he gets hit hard once this year. He's done.
Honestly.
I think the medical field is just at that point now where players aren't pushing themselves to that extreme limit of CTE damage. So
you got a life to live outside of football.
He contemplated retirement, apparently. So
is it worth a first round pick?
Man, seeing CMC out of the first round is crazy too, just in general. In fantasy, whenever you see that, it's just wow.
Okay.
Wow, that's quick. Oh, yeah, because double it. Tua, Anthony Richardson. How do we feel about the first quarterback stack right there?
Not good.
Ooh,
scary.
Yeah,
for my first 2 picks, I don't want that.
That's 2 guys who might not be starting by week 3 of the season. I think Minshew is going to get the nod, or Sam Ehlinger is going to get the nod in Indianapolis.
I like Richardson a lot. I do think Richardson's going to be good.
Value for sure. But but just 2 quarterbacks. I mean, it's not awful to take 2 quarterbacks, but I just think that's not the spot to do it.
No, and if it's those 2 quarterbacks, I get it if Lamar fell or if even
almost very similar quarterbacks, to be honest with you, which isn't a bad thing, but I don't know, just Tua Tua's career is probably going to be shorter than the average quarterback you would imagine. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing here, but he almost retired this offseason. So, and then Anthony Richardson is, it's good to get that young rookie quarterback. Has a lot of hype around him coming out of the draft. Like, that's not a bad pick at 2-1, but you don't know if he's going to be a bust. You don't know.
There's a lot of fighting going on in that quarterback room. There's 3 good QBs there. So
You like Sam Ellinger?
I do like Sam Ellinger. Shout out Team Mustard.
I think I had Sam Ellinger on my team at one point last year.
I think Anthony Richardson's still their guy for the future, but I could see
Dan. I don't know if you know, but you have 30
1.
seconds left. I don't know if you're looking at that.
I know.
Okay, just making sure.
I was just giving time for myself to just talk, wanted to hear myself, But yeah, I gotta go. I love, like I said, I get a top 5 dynasty wide receiver there and AJ Brown after getting, I guess, top 10 quarterback as well. So I'm happy with my draft so far.
Yeah, you can't be mad at AJ ever.
AJ Brown, of course, I would have taken CD Lamb if he was there. But those guys are like, 4th and 5th for me in my rankings in wide receiver.
CD kind of fell under the radar last year. I think his hype's back up again, but for a while last year, he was really, really good player, and not a lot of people were talking about him as if he was in that elite tier, which he definitely is.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look, Joey's back, apparently.
Welcome. I mean, you can't be mad at Justin Jefferson and CMC. Yeah, he's got to be thrilled with that one. Next quarterback stack, T-Lob and Bryce.
That, I think, is a lot better off than Tua and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I'm taking that one.
Bryce Young is more NFL ready for sure off the bat, even though Anthony Richardson's ceiling for fantasy might be higher.
See, that's the thing. In your startup, you got to be thinking, you don't enter the draft going, I'm building for the future. Or that is a strategy you do. You just say, hey, I'm going all youngins and just build completely for the future. But I think my strategy going into a startup is I'm trying to win now, because you never know about the future. If I can go all out at the beginning, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I would be willing to not focus on, like, we say this, a lot of people say this, like, you're not going to draft a running back. I would be okay with getting one great quarterback and just one low level quarterback, just so I can build up the rest of my team to win now. And then I have, future picks that I could always trade to go get a quarterback.
This is a tough spot too, because I think Garrett Wilson's hype is entirely too high, but I'm also, I can't be mad at it. I mean, his ceiling is through the roof. I'm going Wilson.
Right.
Yeah, and that's absolutely who I would have went with in that situation. I'm a big Garrett Wilson guy. He's got Rodgers throwing to him this year at the bare minimum. And you hope that Zach Wilson learns a thing or two from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Trust on that. JETS, baby.
I mean, people definitely be loving on Garrett Wilson. He definitely showed it last year, a reason to love it. The only other picks that could go in this mid-second round is just more quarterbacks, but like that just depends on what you picked in the first round too.
I also think Amon-Ra is a safer option, but I think Garrett Wilson's ceiling is way higher than.
I think Jalen Waddle is a safer option too. But but same thing.
I feel like when you're getting your wide receiver 1, you want the number 1 wide receiver on a team. It's just as good as Jalen Waddle is, it just always limits the ceiling to an extent. But then again, you should never be scared to have like a Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, because they are wide receiver 2, because they are wide receiver 1. So I'm kind of going back and forth on the same thing I'm saying. But
no, that is true though. If you're going to draft your very first wide receiver in the draft, you probably would like him to be a wide receiver 1 on his team.
Just for like when you look at your team, you want to feel good about it when you're like, oh man, well, they do have Tyreek Hill, or it's like, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. If Devontae Smith is your wide receiver 1, that's not the best thing in the world. Okay. I love that pick.
They say he's healthy, but the thing that I want to talk about here is Breece Hall's situation.
Yeah.
What's going on with Dalvin Cook? Is he going to Miami? Is he going to the Jets? Because obviously, if he goes to the Jets here, what does that mean for Breece Hall's value?
So I actually talked to someone on Threads about this today. So if you're not following us on Threads, see us on Threads. But I think if Dalvin Cook goes to the Jets, it doesn't really hurt Breece Hall's value at much, if at all. And I also think that move really limits Dalvin Cook's value more than anything in it, But I think if Dalvin Cook goes to a team that doesn't have an elite tier running back, or at least one a team that's not all in on their running back, he's gonna still be a fantasy relevant player. But I think if he goes to the Jets, he's a low level flex, which is one of my hot takes, I would say.
But yeah, coming out of rounds 1 and 2 with Herbert and Taylor.
Yeah, you gotta be happy with that.
Oh, 100%. People still leading QBs here. Oh,
Dan, what were you gonna say about Brees Hall?
I mean, no, I agree. If Dalvin Cook goes to the Jets, or if he goes to the Patriots with Ramondre Stevenson, I think those two guys are still the RB1s, but like he certainly takes away touches. Like he definitely lessens their value. All right, some quick.
Wow, that just flew.
Of course, okay. The 12th and the first pick in the first round there.
Waddle and Hill going back to back there. Waddle going first too.
That's crazy. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I guess that makes sense. He's younger for sure.
Yeah,
but
that's
it is weird
really
to think about.
That's funny to see, but it makes sense in Dynasty Startup, I guess.
Like the fact that they were back to back just is so glaring.
We have a comment from the Super Fantasy Bros. They said hard to pass on CMC and Garrett, but Bryce Young was also hard to pass on.
For sure. Yeah.
Upside.
Yeah, we had a lot of these people. There's a few people from outside the league. Cole, you're outside the league, our league, Super Fantasy Bros outside our league, but a lot of them are our league mates. They were pretty hyped up. They were ordering cheesesteaks to get ready for this draft because they know Death by Dynasty, of course, loves cheesesteaks. Go check out our cheesesteak reviews, of course. But we had to get in the spirit.
See, I think looking at Team 1 and Grove, I think if they could have like picked a little bit different, because it's like they're both have some players who like, I think Olave and Waddle are like a couple years away from like being like wide receiver ones. And then like Jalen Hurts and Tyreek Hill are win now, but Brees Hall I do think might start slow this year just based off injury.
Coming off of injury.
I feel like picked a little bit like if I think I'm going Brees Hall over Jalen Waddle if I'm Grove. Or actually, no, I guess that's still I don't know. I guess that's tough. All right, we got some breakdown too from some of the previous pick here. Nick said he's not QB hoarding with Burrow, Watson, and Murray. I don't know if I'm going Murray this early in Dynasty Startup. I think there's just a lot of better options there. Also, he's definitely QB hoarding.
That is the definition of QB hoarding right there. Also, Grove commented on basically what you were talking about his team. He said he's kind of doing a little bit of both, playing for the future and playing for the now.
Which I don't know if that's what I want to do. Like,
but in a dynasty league, I don't know. Somebody has to win this year, but somebody has to be ready for the future. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you're staying in position. Like, you can always trade these players at some point too, depending on how the start of your season goes. I saw someone put on Threads today too. They said, I wouldn't trade your 2024 picks, even if you think you're competing, because you very well might not be competing, which is very true. Like, no matter how good you think your team is, you're a couple injuries away from being completely out of it.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to a startup and you don't really know what your team is going to look like until the season unfolds.
All right, here we go. I'm going to get it going again. Resuming. We had to take a pause to get the Zoom initiated.
And plenty of time to think about this pick, so we're gonna go ahead and just lock that one in.
There you go. That's a great pick.
I may or may not be a homer in that regard, but I also, before jumping on here, watched a highlight tape of Devontae Smith absolutely mossing people. So
we're a Go Birds friendly podcast over here. We're very much very Homer-esque in a lot of our takes, so it's very welcome.
Go Birds.
That's one thing. I'll always put Eagles over Dynasty, to be honest. Like if I'm getting, like when I get AJ Brown, if I had to give up CeeDee Lamb, which I didn't have CeeDee Lamb, I think I'm doing that just purely because how can you turn down an Eagle over a Cowboy?
I love Jonathan Taylor.
That's why I don't like Tony Pollard. It's not because he's a Cowboy, if just to make that clear.
Yeah, so okay, so this is good because I was going to talk a little bit about that too, talking about running backs here. If you go watch our last video, we just broke down our top 10 dynasty running backs. So Cole, Jonathan Taylor was my number 2 dynasty running backs. I expect him to have a huge bounce back year this season. And we also said that Tony Pollard is not in the top 10. But you're gonna have to go watch that whole breakdown on our last video after you're done watching this one too. So
one of our most famous takes is going to come into account here. Just about my preference of never having a tight end of value. And Travis Kelce is the one tight end that if he's on your team, you need to get him on your team. But in a dynasty startup, like I'm saying, like he's only going to be on my team for so long. And at that point, once he's gone, I don't care what tight end I have at that point. So in that
it's
sense,
hard to trade him too. Like it's hard to have Travis Kelce on your team right now for the very first time, and then you want him for 2 years, and then his trade value is just depleted after that.
All right, Saquon, welcome to the squad. Very happy with that pick.
That's big. He was my number 5 out of my top 10 dynasty running backs. We saw him bounce back last year. That's all the reassurance I needed.
Yeah, I still think he's got 3 or 4 more years of being an elite running back if he can stay healthy, which is obviously the key with all running backs.
Yeah, I was about to say always a question mark with running backs. Always a question mark with running backs. But I agree. I mean, he's a guy just like Christian McCaffrey, like just like Derrick Henry, who he's still going to be elite when he's in that older, like the past the 25-year-old point is like all of a sudden for running backs, like, oh, they're old. But like there's a few guys that stand out still when they're 26, 27 years old. And Saquon is 26. But yeah, I still see
people
him
act
being
like
good
he's
for a
like
couple more
28,
years.
29.
It's hard to believe that he's 26 years old with how much media attention he even got with his career at Penn State. Like
He feels older. He does.
absolutely.
I was thinking that the other day too.
Joey gonna get another elite level talent based off an auto draft right here.
I love how he came back into the draft because his name popped back up. He's no longer on auto pick, and now he's just going to get auto picked again. Well, that's okay.
All you fantasy people out here, don't be like Joey.
How do
I
we
know
feel
you guys don't know
about
who Joey is, but don't be like him.
how do we feel about Kenneth Walker at the 3-5? Because he was someone that we had just outside of our top 10 running backs. We struggled to not put him in there.
I think I took Saquon, and I would take Saquon over Kenneth Walker if they were both there. But I think I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs or ETN, or even there's a lot of running backs still on the board that I'm very confidently taking over Kenneth Walker. I don't take
Austin Eckler in that round. Like I think he's too old for his dynasty startup. I mean, you take him eventually for sure. He's going to be great for a year, 2 years, but he's old, man. But I would take Kenneth Walker potentially over Austin Eckler, maybe, but I would take both of them later, and I would take Saquon. Saquon was a great pick for you right there.
Well, Joey gets Cooper Kupp. He actually traded Cooper Kupp for Will Fuller in our actual dynasty league. So I'm sure you can have some.
And by the way, I would take Gibbs potentially over all of those guys, including Saquon Barkley. So Gibbs is a great pick at the 3-9.
I think Gibbs is going to take a year or two to get to where people want him to be. I don't think he's going to be as explosive his rookie year as people think he is, but I do think Gibbs is a great pick overall. My strategy right now is win now. I'm going very much win now as much as I can. Joey has a really elite team though, still on auto draft. Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey. That's a championship lineup right there right now.
Yeah,
for this year.
That screams win now.
Yeah, between McCaffrey and Kupp.
All right.
But who knows how long? I can see McCaffrey playing for a long time. I feel like that's just one of those guys who just always is going to be playing.
I'm sticking to my roots here and falling back like a lot of us have done on what our actual team is in Dynasty in our current league. But I do think it's a smart pick, and I'll walk you through my thought process a little bit here. Okay, Mark Andrews, again, we're an anti-tight end podcast here, so I don't take it. But for JSN is going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Give it 3 years. And I am looking towards the future when I'm drafting my dynasty startup, just my strategy. And then I'm still looking for that second quarterback on my team. But again, like I have a quick turnaround, a couple more picks, and I'll be able to probably going to go for a quarterback in the 4th round there. Another
Yeah.
thing, just in general, I'll say really quickly, like when you are drafting for Superflex startups, like look and see what other teams have already drafted 2 quarterbacks. They're not likely to draft a third unless they're QB hoarding like Gallo over here. But then you know how long you can wait to draft another quarterback, because you can kind of assume that they'll keep falling after all these people have already had 2 quarterbacks.
I think Duncan might go QB hoarding here. I just have a weird feeling. I feel like when you see 2 QBs right there, you get excited. You're like, "Ooh, here we go." Oh, Joey popped back in. Welcome back, Joey.
He's like missing his picks. He's popping back in at the wrong time.
He's just hopping back in. He's like, "Oh wow, nice squad. We'll keep it going."
I would take all 6 guys that were taken after Kyler Murray way before I would take Kyler Murray.
That's true. 100%. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm staying away from Kyler Murray in startups. I think it once your dynasty league's going, like going out to get him right now isn't a bad option depending on your situation.
If he's cheap, he could be cheap, a cheap buy right now. But that's the thing, like Kyler Murray on your team, getting him in the 6th round would be a great value, which is probably where he's falling in a lot of leagues right now for dynasty startup. And I think that's great. Like hold on to him, because he's not going to be great this year. He's going to be injured for at least few games at the very least. But
yeah, the 6th round of your dynasty baseball team.
Yeah.
Future Las Vegas A right there.
There you go. Well, that's unfortunate because he was just auto draft and he did pick a 3rd quarterback.
That's another brutal one right there. Those are 3: Tua, Richardson, Dak.
And now I have to quickly get ready to take my pick now.
And then Travis Kelce. Wow. We might have to get Duncan on here to defend
It does
himself.
get hard. I'm not gonna lie. It gets hard when I have my team that's set up right now for the future. AJ Brown is always a win now guy, but he's still young, so he's still good for the future. Then I have to make another pick here, and if I pick somebody who's a win now guy, it might basically, is that a waste? Because he won't be relevant when my team's ready to win.
I think I think there's still time. By going 2 wide receivers, you've given yourself flexibility here on how you want to approach your season. Yeah. So I think you don't have to decide that in this round per se.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's 100% true. I don't think I should not pick a player just because I think that, I mean, in the 4th round, like in the 4th, like
there's still so much time.
Derrick Henry, who's
so high talent.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't pick a Derrick Henry on this team necessarily unless I get him really late, but okay, so a lot of stuff I can do here. All right. I ranked him. I have to stick with my rankings that we just did. I ranked Josh Jacobs 1 spot over Travis Etienne as my 7th best dynasty running back. So I got to stick with him there. I almost took Etienne though. Oh, and I didn't take the quarterback that I said I was going to take a million times.
I think, not to stay on topic of Joey, but I think that was his first actual pick, and it was Kirk Cousins. That's the way to enter a draft. But I do love Josh Jacobs, though. To go back to your pick there, Josh Jacobs, great pick. Love the T. Higgins pick by Super Fantasy Bros.
He was another one I was contemplating. He was another one I was contemplating there.
I was saying there's no way he drops another couple picks. Ty, you would have picked him hands down. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I would have taken him if he was there.
I take T. Higgins over Kenneth Walker, probably. I take T. Higgins over Cooper Kupp. Because I already think Cooper Kupp, I've already had this conversation. Cooper Kupp is a sell guy now. Unless you're ready to win this year, I sell him this offseason. I don't wait until he steps on the field.
Here's an interest.
That offense is not going to look good this year for the Rams. What's the thought process?
I'm between 2 players right now. I'm between Etienne and Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb this year. I think he's a player who's consistently undervalued, but again, from that dynasty standpoint, I don't know.
Yeah, Chubb, I do agree that would be great. I think he'll be great this year. And I think, yeah,
I'm going Chubb.
I think if you,
Whichever one you take, I was gonna take the other.
and I think that that's a good thought process to have because I don't know which one is right or wrong, but I do believe that Chubb. I don't know if ETN's ceiling is as high as Chubb's, but ETN's longevity is definitely there.
And ETN still has a lot of question marks there. If he doesn't develop his receiving game to what it was, even close to what it was at Clemson, he's not gonna stay at that high level as much as, or he doesn't have as good of a chance to. Plus with Bigsby, like you go back, we'll look into our analysis that we had on the last one about running backs. But I love having Barkley Chubb running back combo right there.
All right, so Sam has not picked. Oh, he has picked one QB. He picked CJ Stroud. That Glenn is Stefanski here.
Hot take: CJ Stroud will be the best rookie quarterback this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I could see that. I said, what did I say? Anthony Richardson is more QB ready than
Bryce Young.
Or Bryce Young is more NFL ready than Anthony Richardson, but I do think CJ Stroud is the most NFL ready when it comes to just being a great pocket passer.
Fantasy Bros
to read defense and everything like that.
They just commented, they said needed a young running back to pair with an already younger aiming team. Took Gibbs over some proven guys, like his upside even this year. Then added T. Higgins, still 24, but more proven to get started at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think it's a very smart. He's like Super Fantasy Bros has made a very smart picks in this draft.
You can tell they play Dynasty.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing. When people first start playing Dynasty, I feel like you can really tell. Like you can be like, oh, like there's a definite learning curve if you're in a league with people who have been playing Dynasty for a while.
It's hard not to pick those superstars that we already know and love if you're doing a startup and you haven't played before. It's tough when you get auto picked like that, but
that's brutal.
Just so we're clear, not who we would pick in that position. For the sake of our listeners, do not do that.
If you're in a Dynasty startup, I will stick to the roots and say you should not even look at your tight end position until
Gallo loves 10. Kyle Pitts as we're talking about the tight end position. And listen, a lot of people love Kyle Pitts, but he's still not as valuable. Like, let me see who's still on the board. I'd rather have a Drake London who's literally.
I mean, he doesn't have a running back or a wide receiver yet.
You could draft Drake London. They're both on Atlanta. Who's going to have the better fantasy career? The wide receiver is almost always the wide receiver one over the tight end on that team. The only tight end in the league that is actually the wide receiver one on their team is Travis Kelce.
And I'm not taking him in Dynasty startups at his value. Just too many other better Dynasty players there.
And unless a tight end is the first option or maybe the second option, drafting him this early. And Hawkinson's probably the third option there now. He honestly would have been the second option if they didn't draft Jordan Addison. So I do think Hawkinson will be a great tight end over the next couple of years. When it comes to tight ends, we just think that basically the entire position is overvalued.
I'm very interested to see what Grove does here for running back because his team is probably one of my favorites right now with those three wide receivers.
He could go Mahomes. No running back strategy as well, and he could just draft another QB here. Okay.
Yeah. Now he just messed it all up. His team sucks. Just Daniel Jones, he's another guy who is like what we said in our random questions video is like, I just don't want a quarterback who looks like Daniel Jones on my team for being
crazy
honest.
legs.
What he asked for, like 40 mil?
That's what he got.
Did he get?
Yeah, he got a contract.
He got
that's why they franchise tagged. Actually, yeah, they franchise tagged Saquon, so that's interesting for his future.
Yeah, Grove, he said, y'all know how I feel about my wide receiver room. His wide receiver room's crazy. I can't believe I got AJ Brown from him. But who do you have? AJ Brown, Diggs, and Jefferson.
Yep. I do, by the way, I do like Daniel Jones, like for Dynasty when you're getting him this late in a startup draft.
Actually. If you're going no running back, yeah, sure. If you can get Waddle, Olave, and Metcalf as your,
I mean, if he didn't pick Daniel Jones, I don't know if Daniel Jones would make it past there. Like, okay, let's see, this team one is on auto draft, but Like they need another quarterback. Grove needs another quarterback, but he didn't take it, I guess. So it is what it is. I guess he would have. I guess he would have had Daniel Jones. Now that I'm looking at it, he could have drafted somebody else and then gotten Daniel Jones.
Yeah, no, those are some very talented players. Metcalf, Watson, Harris. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
okay.
I'm going
So
them over
maybe
Daniel
Daniel Jones
Jones.
wasn't the right pick there, but in a general sense, okay, I'll say this: at the 5-3 where he is currently, I would have taken Daniel Jones after
It's
taking
not
DK
bad.
Metcalf.
I feel like once I get my elite quarterback in Superflex, I fall back on how I approach quarterbacks in redraft leagues, where I feel like it's not as important to have that like elite tier. It's in Superflex, you need an elite tier quarterback, but for that second Superflex spot, I think you can get away with one of those late picks and get other positions.
Yeah, it gets to a certain point, like I've still not gotten a quarterback, so why get one now?
Yeah, I do really like Cardane's team though. Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra, Eckler, Jones, Allen. They're in great position to
Yeah.
compete now.
Yeah, getting Adams there is pretty good. If you think like the only thing he could have done is gotten that DK Metcalf or Christian Watson, and then still gotten Daniel Jones at the 5-3. But he definitely is. This looks more like a win now team. Funny thing, I think he has Daniel Jones on his current fantasy team too.
Do I have anyone who's on mine? Nope.
You got to make it happen. Everyone's doing it, dude.
I'll get him on
Yes,
my team.
there are certain players that everybody loves that you love this. Not that everybody loves, but everybody has that one player that they love that they need to get. But that's usually for everybody the wrong player. Like you're just too in love with him. You're thinking with your heart.
Yeah, I have an emotional attachment to Tim Patrick right now. I've dropped him like probably twice over the last year, and he always ends up back on my team, and I'm not letting him go.
The deep sleepers, the deep bench pieces that like you just hang on to. You just never know. Oh, I see a really good pick that's still here right now, and I am not going to say it yet because Cole and Tyler, you're both. I got a ways to go actually, so I'm gonna get picked here probably.
So I have a stack, which is exactly what I was looking for. I was took him right on his ADP. I'm set for the next 5 years right there. I got Quentin Johnson and Justin Herbert. It's a shame that this is a mock draft. I'd be feeling real pretty about it.
That stack is beautiful. That stack is beautiful, honestly. And dude, I love the Devontae Smith, like who eventually maybe come a wide receiver one. Who knows at some point? I mean, he's close to being at that skill level. And I love Jonathan Taylor. You got ETN, who's young.
Jonathan Taylor would be my oldest player here on the block, and I still feel like this is a win now team.
It could be.
All right. I'm going with a player that we talked about a little bit earlier today, and it's Ramondre Stevenson.
That was the pick I was saying. That is a beautiful pick. And so
he just scores touchdowns. I love. We talk again. Go back, watch our running back analysis. I know we talked about him on there. He is a player who, when I watched him the first time, I was like, he's the dude who I want on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I'm going to look up how many touches he got last year. I know he had like 88 receptions, which is insane. But like his body type is not the type of running back you would think would be a receiving back. Because he had 210 attempts last year. He's going to get like 300 attempts this year. Like he's like a big body workhorse back. And he still can receive the ball the way he did last year.
Now, do you think if Dalvin Cook goes to New England, that affects him at all?
I think that potentially he looks still a little bit better than he did last year, but closer to what he did last year.
I think Dalvin Cook going to New England hurts Stevenson more than it would hurt Breece Hall. But I still think you shouldn't be turned away by the possible Dalvin Cook signing for either of those teams.
I mean, you got to draft based on what their current, like, we don't know that Dalvin Cook's going to go there. In fact, like, I'd say currently it's more likely he doesn't go there just because I think the Dolphins are still there. I would say the Jets are probably second best odds right now.
Super Fantasy Bros agreed. They said was praying Ramondre made it to us.
Yeah. I was praying he made it to me. I knew he never would, though. I feel like I've been just chilling, waiting.
I think the only thing that scares me about any New England running back is that late in the season, Bill Belichick just gives the ball to whomever.
I know. And that they could draft another running back after this season and make Stevenson irrelevant. Yeah, we also have talked about Deebo Samuel in our past videos. I do think Debo is going to look better than he did last year, but for a long-term thing, when we're talking about dynasty, I mean, he's just not the center of that offense anymore.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wide receivers right now. And I think in Dynasty, I'm taking Ayuk over Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Should I change it to a minute for picks? Just so these auto drafts don't take as long.
Oh, well,
I could just keep it on.
These auto drafts should be just stay on auto.
But every time they join, it takes it off.
Yeah.
We just keep it for now. Jordan Addison. I was gonna say I would rather have Jordan Addison 100% over Deebo.
That's
Samuel.
a great. I mean, they've picked really well. Like, shout out to Super Fantasy Bros. If you want to look at a team who is picked, like really, really thinking about the future, but also guys who are still gonna like be ready to help their team immediately. Look at what the Super Fantasy Bros have done. I mean, Gibbs is an RB1, or Gibbs is, he's an RB1 on his team this year. He's probably a high-end RB2 in fantasy this year.
Their team's so young, but they can win now. It's crazy, actually.
Yeah. T. Higgins you never know. He could be. Was he a wide receiver 1 last year?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's top 10.
So, yeah, so Higgins can be a wide receiver 1 this year, but still has not even close to reaching his ceiling whenever he probably will be a legitimate wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Jordan Addison is a guy who, JSN is the best wide receiver out of the rookie class, but Jordan Addison will contribute to his team more early on in this season. He will look
agree with that.
better earlier on in the season. So again, love their picks, and I completely was not paying attention. But you know what? That's okay, because I'm pretty happy with that pick, actually. That was
I do like Judy. I have him on my team, but
Judy at that value, a guy who hopefully hasn't reached his ceiling yet. That offense hopefully looking better this year. And like Cole just said he accidentally unplugged his computer. We may not be getting Cole back.
So why is he just frozen right there? We appreciate you coming on, Cole.
Yeah, thanks, Cole. But yeah. Okay, Dameon Pierce, I was another great pick there. Another young guy who's like he's an RB1. We saw what he did last year.
Yeah, I like Pierce. I feel like he was was the opposite of T-Law, where his hype just kept building and building and building, and now it's very low.
Yeah, which is a little bit weird.
He was a first-round pick in redraft leagues last year, I believe.
Yes, he was. He was a first-round pick last year, and he essentially lived up to the hype. I mean, he was only a rookie, and he still put up. Where is it? He put up 939 yards. He didn't get the touchdowns last year. I mean, that offense was just awful, but he only had 4 touchdowns on the ground last year. So he has some room to grow, but I mean, at that pick, I think it's very solid. Although I will say, let me look at what other running backs are still there. I mean, there are other running backs I'd probably take over him right now. A couple. I would take J.K. Dobbins. I'm really up on J.K. Dobbins, but again, he's a huge question mark too. So I don't know. I could take J.K. Dobbins right here. I am in dangerous territory right now because I don't have a second QB yet.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that don't have a second QB.
And currently there's only 2 QBs I feel good about taking right now as my second QB.
There's 2 teams with 0 quarterbacks.
So I guess I have to take a QB. And that's the thought process you have to have when you are picking Dynasty, like if you're going to wait this long, you have to figure out what other teams still need a quarterback because people aren't going to wait this long. And okay, so between the two quarterbacks I'm thinking Jared Goff and Geno Smith are the two quarterbacks I feel good at this value right here. Geno Smith is older than Jared Goff, and Jared Goff has a better track record, really. So I'm going Jared Goff. Jared Goff finished as a top 10 quarterback last year in our league, I believe.
I won all the Jared Goff shares I could get. He's good.
Jared Goff is an underrated quarterback. He was 10th in standard and PPR across the board. Well, I guess that's always pretty much true for quarterbacks, but he was the 10th best quarterback in fantasy last year. And I just got him. Let's see. I'm going to take a look. He was the 10th best quarterback last year. He's been in the top 10 before. He's always essentially in the top 20. And if I look at the quarterbacks who's been drafted, I just took him at like the 15th best quarterback, 16th quarterback off the board. So I love that value.
All right, another pick where I'm gonna go down the draft board a little bit and potentially reach. But
I actually got him at the 18th quarterback off the board for someone who could finish around the 10 to 12 range.
I'm actually okay with waiting at quarterback at this.
It's tough
between two players.
It's like what I said before. It's like, do you take it and get somebody instead of getting garbage, or do you just say I've waited this long anyways?
Yeah,
there are other starting quarterbacks on the board, but there are quarterbacks that aren't going to be in the league much longer. A lot.
I want a receiver, and I was just talking about him.
All right. You've said in the past Brandon Ayuk is arguably a better wide receiver than Deebo Samuel.
He's so good. I think when I traded him, the whole reason I traded him was because he made the comments about the Eagles right after the game. And now we were talking about how it's a Homer podcast. I legitimately didn't want him on my team anymore because of that, but I did get good value from him. But Ayuk, I would every single time want him over Deebo Samuel. Every year, his rookie year, he scores touchdowns. That's his thing. He knows how to find the end zone. He had at least 5 touchdowns every year. Broke 1,000 yards last year, and I think he's only going to get better. I know at the beginning of his career, he didn't play as much because I think he had a route run. There was something that he also might have fumbled it or had a couple drops, but he's gotten better every single year. And we're back. I do like that Derrick Henry pick. He was getting in the territory where I'm like, I'm pretty happy getting Derrick Henry now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
I knew he was gonna go Burks there. I knew it.
I
had to get London and Burks. Too. London and Burks
pick there. I mean, because Burks really almost has been talked about so much in the Dynasty community that he's almost. I don't know if he's overvalued, but at that value, that's great because Treylon Burks is going to be. The Titans need somebody to throw to. There's nobody else. So
Gallo's still he's the only team without a running back at this point. So we'll see what he does there.
I am also without a running back.
Oh, you got
you
have Jacobs.
Oh yeah. I took Jacobs. What am I talking about? I thought for a second I didn't. Jacobs, great running back. Never mind.
Javonte is a player who I'm out on, but I know I'm going to regret being out on him. I don't want him. He scares me too much with that injury. That's just that injury that's brutal to come back from. But
I just realized I had your team highlighted this whole time, and none of the other picks were like they were there, but they were like a little darker than yours. We live and we learn, man. Okay.
Trey Lance at 7-2.
Okay, so I go Geno. He doesn't have a second QB. Otherwise, I go Geno Smith there before Trey Lance.
Trey Lance is a player I want no part of right now. Like I know I keep saying that for a bunch of players, but for my second quarterback for a super flex, they need to be guaranteed start. There's plenty of quarterbacks who are going to perform this year all season long, guaranteed starters for the entire season that you should be drafting right now.
Yeah. Trey Lance is such a question mark. He's not a current starting quarterback. I don't know if he ever gets another chance, but even if he does, he's never going to be what people thought he was going to be coming out of college. That simple. Joe
I
Mixon,
do
a
like
good pick
Mixon.
there.
He
Yeah, again,
his fantasy stats are kind of skewed because he scored like half of his points in one game last year, but he's a player he still has some juice in the tank.
yeah, exactly. Like you're getting these older guys, but like at this value, this is exactly where you want to be drafting them, I would say.
Like I'm for Cardane having Eckler, Williams, and Mixon. That's 3 great running backs to have.
And then like after you get through these next 2 rounds is when you go back to drafting those other rookies that like those like the Zach Charbonnets of the world,
Josh
guys
Downs,
like
Jaden
that.
Reed.
Exactly. Yeah. Who, aren't going to necessarily help you for a year or 2 years, but still have that potential coming out. And they're young and young. Again, you don't want a team that doesn't have any players over 25 years old. Like it's okay to have some older players on your team, but like there's a lot of value in having a young, talented wide receiver or
I
running
really
back.
like Gallows. He waited on wide receivers till the 5th round, and getting London, Burks, McLaurin.
Huge value there.
That's 3 great wide receivers. But again, still no running back.
Still no running back. He is literally the no running back strategy he's going to take to the very end of the draft. He is literally just not drafting a running back. And to be honest, this is what he does. We've seen him do this in our current dynasty league too.
There's a running back that's still available that is so slept on this year. It's ridiculous. I didn't have him in my sleepers
Oh,
in my one, but
absolutely.
like
Absolutely. He's an
I've also
RB1. There's an
yeah.
RB. There's two RB1s.
There's 2 RB1s on the board. 3, yeah, there's 3
Potentially.
RB1s on the board.
So yeah,
But there's one that I think is considerably better than all of them.
I agree. And I know exactly what you're
And
talking about, so you might as well take Cam Akers now.
that is not who it is, and nor
No.
no, it is not.
I think
And
Cam Akers is the best running back available right now.
Cam Akers. So there's actually more starting running backs than I even realized. But I think I want to go Geno Smith here. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I think you have
Waited
to.
long enough. I need my second
you're
quarterback. I feel
almost
great
lucky
there.
that he dropped to you because Aaron Rodgers obviously the better quarterback, but Geno Smith has amazing weapons and probably he's gonna get an opportunity after this year, even if it's not on Seattle.
I might need to do more research on Cam Akers. He's been a player who his rookie year he was supposed to be amazing, and then he really didn't get the opportunities, and
he's a question
I kind of
mark.
like stayed away from him. Yeah, I put that like block in my head from him, but
He's definitely a question mark. I mean, Alexander.
I've heard the hype start building.
They've
sure.
got Dalvin Cook still, maybe this is fair. I don't know though. I mean, if Dalvin Cook may not be the running back one somewhere, so they got Dalvin Cook over Alexander Madison, and I don't love Alexander Madison, but right now I might want him over Dalvin Cook just given the situation.
In Dynasty, I think every single time, like if I sent to trade Alexander Madison for Dalvin Cook straight up, I would like take that. Or if I was the one getting Madison, I'm taking that every time.
Because at the end of the season, you can
Aaron Jones
Alexander
was the player
Madison.
I was talking about. He just
okay. Yeah, 100%. I didn't even see Aaron Jones still there, so never mind. Aaron Jones was the best running back for sure. Okay, so I do need a running back. Well, I have one, but I still need another. Although I kind of want to see what value is out there. There's some good value out there at the wide receiver position. All right, we're gonna stick with our minimal running back strategy here. I got to go Jahan Dotson. I do feel like, again, that's another great value wide receiver in the 7th round there.
I think he's going to be a stud.
Arguably the best rookie wide receiver last year, who just started out cold. And was he injured early on year last year?
Yeah, I think he like tweaked a hamstring early.
Yeah. So, okay.
Well, here goes Zach Charbonnet. We were saying that this is around where he'd go. Jameson Williams is a player who I think he's a buy low if you can get him. It's just like had a horrible start to his career between the injury and then the gambling ruling.
I always say that as I make my pick here, as I'm in between thoughts here, I'm gonna go with Cam Akers. I always say that I'll talk about Cam Akers after, but I always say that if your career starts off where you can barely get on the field for one reason or another, it's going to be hard to find your place in the NFL after that. And he will, he'll have a long career. I just don't think that, when you start off slow like that you could ever have the career that people thought you were going to have coming out of college. And it's the same thing with Trey Lance, and obviously injuries is another story too.
All right, I'm gonna take the other top of the rankings pick, which I always feel guilty doing, but I think that Browns offense is they're gonna hit their stride this year.
Dude, at that value, Amari Cooper is a great pick there, honestly. And
especially with Ayuk, I wanted to make sure to get another wide receiver that I can count on, because as much high as I am on Ayuk, again, that offense has so many weapons to go around too. And
I guess Cooper is older, like that's the only thing, but he's still like close to elite tier level wide receiver.
Rashad White, that's what I've seen people go. I would rather have Pacheco over White for sure.
Dude, I go either way with both of those guys. Running backs are so hard in the NFL, and that's why you can go no running back strategy, because you don't know if either of those guys are still going to be RB1s after this season.
It's very true.
And Rashad, like I've heard great things about Rashad White. I've also heard, look, he's getting an opportunity. He just happens to be the guy that's getting the opportunity. Goes either way. Isaiah Pacheco actually showed value last year already. So I guess that's
with a crowded backfield, nonetheless. Like, it wasn't like he was in a good situation and now he is more. Like, they have the same exact running back room as they had last year.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And I can't see McKinnon. I feel like that was like one of those like boom years where he exploded, but he's 31, 32. And I see Pacheco getting more of the touches over McKinnon, even though I have all three of the running backs on my actual dynasty team.
I mean, listen, you can't go wrong. One of them is going to, although, I mean, unless they just all do a committee.
I think Derek Carr is a great late, if you're waiting on.
That's his QB3. So
yeah, I think if you pick Daniel Jones, Derek Carr is a great guy to pair up with Daniel Jones.
Yeah. How do you not take Derek? I mean, like, I don't think Derek Carr should go at the 7-2, but I would rather have him than Trey Lance because he's as my QB2.
That's what I meant by like, why are you, if you don't have a quarterback 2 yet, why are you taking one that's a quarterback 2 in the NFL right now?
Yeah. Yeah. You literally need to, essentially you need to start a QB, 2 QBs in Superflex. You just picked up a second QB that literally will get 0 points.
Wow, Grove, worst 2 picks of the draft, tight end, brutal. Just kidding. I do like Waller, but now that we talk about it so much, anytime someone picks a tight end, my brain just like gets triggered to it.
We are an anti-tight end podcast. It is what it is, people. If you don't like it, then you're going to have to fight us in the comments. That's pretty much the only thing you can do about it.
I will go down with that ship. It'll be like 20 years from now and like tight ends are the future. I'm like, no, they are not who you need to have.
Every wide receiver just looks like tight ends in the year 2050 or some shit. Yeah, Cardane keeps on.
Oh, we're in the 9th round. I guess we're through the.
Hey, we'll go through the 9th round.
We'll go through the 9th. We're going. I kind of want to see out my team a little bit.
I think everybody else is probably low-key forgetting, okay, Keenan Allen, old, not going to have him for too much longer. There's probably other wide receivers I want to take there, to be honest with you. Same with D-Hop. I mean, there are wide receivers I would love to have on my team that are still there. Love to have on my team.
Yeah, there's still a lot of really good wide receivers available.
And I gotta say, Cole, like, shout out, he came on. The Kadarius Toney pick at the 8-7, not my favorite.
I want nothing to do with Toney either. No, add him to the list of players I want nothing to do with.
But Johnson there, I do think that's a good pick. I would honestly rather have Johnson at the 8-7.
Yeah, I would rather have Deontay Johnson over Toney every single day. But he has both, so he doesn't have to choose.
Yeah. I mean, I do like his wide receiver room already. So with Quentin Johnson, Devontae Smith, and then Deontay Johnson. And you're in a
Christian Kirk.
situation. Okay, so that was the one that was really glaring for me that I was really loving seeing Christian Kirk there.
He just every single year he quietly produces. It's like you see that meme where it's like talent level recognition. That is
He was
Christian
the wide
Kirk.
receiver one through like half the season last year.
And I think having now Ridley on the team helps him.
He's still the skill level's there. He wasn't just the guy and who somebody had to throw to last year. The skill level was there. We already saw it. He took a step forward when he was with the Cardinals, and he took a huge step forward last year. I mean, I think that's legit. I think that's who Christian Kirk is. And yes, he'll be fighting for targets a little bit with Calvin Johnson now, or with Calvin Ridley. But yeah, I love him.
Brothers went back to back there. Jared Cook, Dalvin Cook.
That's bragging rights. Jared Cook, the younger brother, now getting drafted ahead of Dalvin Cook. This is tough for me. Not gonna lie, I do still need a tight end. Really, really tough for me.
I just put in the chat that people can feel free to leave if they would like.
All right. What's our move?
Let's finish this round.
All right.
If people go on auto draft, I'm down to stay because it'll go really quick.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I don't know if David Njoku was the right pick for me there.
I like Njoku for waiting on tight ends.
Yeah.
Again, he's on my team, so take that for what you will. But
when you look at, I have my 2 QBs. I have 3 very good wide receivers, 4 really good wide receivers on my team. I love Dotson, man. I mean, I think that he could be easily a top tier flex at the very least this year.
I was happy going into the year with him as my wide receiver too in our actual dynasty league. Made some moves since then, but I was very content at that level.
Yeah, I think so.
Kamara is a player who I don't.
I stay away from him
at this point. Yeah, I want to stay away. It's not that I don't want anything to do with them.
Oh shit, that was me. I
stay away.
Auto drafted, but it's fine. David Montgomery.
But you know what? David Montgomery's not getting talked about enough now that they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. He very well could take over that Jamal Williams role, and you could see a lot of touchdowns from him.
Yeah, I agree.
He did need a running back.
Undervalued at that point. So
is there a running back you would have picked there instead?
Let me see. I mean, the only one I might pick, actually, as I'm looking at it, there's a few that I might pick. AJ Dillon is one, only because as a backup, he still gets a solid workload. And then Antonio Gibson / Brian Robinson, but I would struggle which one of them to pick because Washington, it's kind of the same thing that happened to Cam Akers. I just feel like they keep flip-flopping on who they think their RB1 is. Like, they don't even know.
This is a point in the draft where it just gets so murky.
And then James Conner, out of all of those guys, is probably going to, and as long as he stays on the field, James Conner is probably going to have the best season this upcoming season out of the few running backs I just named.
Yeah, that's who I'm looking at right now, too.
But, so not a bad pick necessarily at this point, but yeah, but I don't think you have him for much longer.
As my RB4, I'm thrilled with James Conner.
Again, love another wide receiver. There's so much value at the wide receiver position down here that
I like
honestly,
Bateman for a second.
I would like picking a third running back to me if I was going to redo what I just did, like isn't even as important to me as picking these wide receivers that are down here. Rashad Bateman, Jahad Dotson obviously went a few rounds beforehand, but I like Dearness Johnson, Christian Kirk, like all those guys. I mean, Christian Kirk is like, he was a top 5 receiver last year. And he just went in the 9th round.
He's just not that name that looks great on your team. So it's crazy. That's where you could have a huge advantage in dynasty startups. That's when you really got to take advantage. Don't underestimate. That is by far the most important time for your team is your dynasty startup. So
And load up on the wide receiver position. Like load up on the wide receiver position. You cannot go wrong there. The longevity is always there at the position. They just last longer age wise. And there's less of question. There's less of like running backs could be a run RB1 one year and then RB3 the next. Okay, so Gibson drafted before Brian Robinson here. I think that's probably correct, but like I don't know with those two. Elijah Moore is a question mark, but another good pick there. Roshan Johnson. I know I just drafted David Montgomery auto pick, but I think Roshan Johnson gets true opportunities this season.
Yeah, I think 100% he does. And I was planning on taking Evan Ingram this round.
Oh, I said David Montgomery. I keep on thinking Montgomery is still on the Bears. No, the Bears have Deontay Foreman.
Yeah.
And somebody else too. That I'm blanking on.
It's someone who's not going to be as involved as
I'm
they
gonna
were
look it up
last year.
right now. I'm gonna look it up right now. Khalil Herbert.
Who just went.
Oh yeah. But Deontay Foreman, is he still on the board? Yeah, he is still on the board. I mean, he's going into the season. I'm kind of assuming here, but you would think he's going into the season as the RB1 there.
All right, right now, this is where I'm going to start building for the future a little bit. And a player who I'm very high on, Josh Downs.
Yep, great value for the future. Again, not going to necessarily help you too much this season, but like great talent in the rookie draft. Went in what, second round somewhere?
Yeah, I got him at, I think, 2.5.
Yeah, and there's another wide receiver that's like very equal caliber to him, another rookie wide receiver that's sitting there. Oh, I gotta get off of auto. How do I get off of auto? Turn off auto. Okay. Talking so much, doing so much commentary here, talking football. We love talking football. Under 2 months till kickoff, man. But I got distracted a little bit along the way.
Once I started seeing clips from what is it, training camp. Once training camp officially starts, that's when it's real.
Yeah, 100%. All right.
Oh man, Dalton Schultz. I was thinking about going him later.
That's a pretty good pick for this upcoming season. Okay. I'm gonna go with there's a couple. Okay, so because we are doing a dynasty startup, I'm not going to take Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks is a very undervalued wide receiver. I would take Brandon Cooks potentially over guys. I was going to say D Hop, but maybe that's unfair to D Hop, but like I think D Hop has lost a step. I think Brandon Cooks is going to have a great season this year. Nonetheless, I'm going young. I'm going Marvin Mims. I think that's like equal value as Josh Downs, another young receiver.
You're right back up.
And you know what? Just because I said it, Brandon Cooks, he would easily be able to be a flex for me this season. On this team, I mean, I'd probably put Judy in there sometimes, but could put Dotson in there sometimes. But Brandon Cooks is a flex for sure.
All right, I'm gonna take a player from your dynasty team. Finally going tight end. Give me Chig.
Hey, see, that's great value at the 12th round. Chig, again, like there's basically two. Okay, obviously Derrick Henry is going to be the center of that offense, as they always are. But when it comes to passing the ball, they're going to have to go to Treylon Burks, and the wide receiver too is going to be Chig. Honestly.
Especially with young quarterbacks on the team. I know obviously Ryan Tannehill right now, but either way, Malik Willis or Levis, young quarterbacks look to their tight ends as that safety blanket. So a talent like Chig, that's why I don't like tight ends. Not because I don't think they're good or they're like not valuable to your team, but you could get so many better players and still have a tight end. Chig could be just as good as Darren Waller. Very well could be. Darren Waller obviously has a way higher chance of doing that, but really not much. A lot of weeks Chig will outscore Waller.
Yeah. I agree.
Mooney's bulked up. He's starting to be one of those players that go into the offseason hype.
Yeah, I mean Mooney. Listen, the offense as a whole should be better. If your quarterback gets better, your wide receivers should get better too. So
Here goes all the rookies: Spears, Reed, said Penny's
yeah,
he got a lot of hype when the Eagles first picked him up, but then everyone forgot about it
yeah.
after they got Swift. But he's a player who I think if you can get this late, I'd like to have him on my bench.
I would like to have him on my bench too, especially because both of those guys are injury prone. So one of them is going to go down, and the other one is going to end up being the RB1 for a few weeks. But the only problem is like the Eagles could put anybody behind their offensive line, and they kind of do that sometimes.
As you kind of just got to like, it's like a toss of the coin. It's like who's gonna get the carries this week? If you pick right, you're in for a great day. If you don't pick right, you're gonna be pissed off all day.
Yeah, and now like majority of the teams are gonna be already have or will in the future. We already know is here with the rushing quarterback, but the rushing quarterback does take away from the running back position a little bit. I mean,
I'll say what to Michael Thomas. I know it's the auto draft, but he shouldn't. At this point, don't he should not be drafted in Dynasty or redraft. Honestly, for this, like I don't know how he's in the league still.
honestly. I mean, is he going to stay healthy? I don't know, but
Jamal Williams is another player, late value, great. Like,
yeah,
gotta be happy there.
agreed. Especially because of Kamara very likely getting suspended. Jamal Williams is the next man up there.
All right.
You now you're just trying to get depth, trying to get future. I don't even think at this point in the draft it's good to get the older players that are, used to be good. Like, I don't think that's good for your depth at this point, depending who it is. But
Let's go, Matchy.
crazy thing is this is what I'm going to do right now with a few picks left. I'm going to take another quarterback right now, who is, again, I'm getting another starting quarterback. That's why it's crazy. I mean, I don't think most
I almost
people
went Sam Howell.
need to know this, but yeah, like Sam Howell, I got to go Sam Howell over Mac Jones or Desmond Ritter. I'm going Desmond Ritter.
I'll say too, I don't think Matthew Stafford's done. I know he was god awful last year, but he's one of those guys who used to, you're saying used to be kind of hurts my argument, but like I still think he can very well be one of those quarterbacks like a Ryan Tannehill, who's nothing special, but very well could fill your starting quarterback spot a lot of weeks.
Yeah, I think like as far as the NFL goes, like he at least it's like like at their stage of the career, like he's gonna be better than a lot of the rookie QBs just because he has so much experience, and of course his talent level is there. He's just older now. I think he could just run an offense. He's trusted, won't make too many mistakes.
I think Sam Howell's I think he's gonna be good to start the year, and he's gonna hold that starting spot pretty confidently. And I think for at least the next couple years, Washington's gonna stick with him. I think if they struggle, they'll end up drafting a good quarterback. But I think the skill's there for sure.
Okay, like Baker Mayfield is a quarterback who's going to throw interceptions, even if he has some good plays. Like it's impossible to defend Baker Mayfield anymore. I defended him for way longer than a lot of people did. But I will say, like, when you compare, like, Baker Mayfield probably has a stronger arm now can make some pretty insane plays, can, run the ball when needed. But Matthew Stafford is going to win you games way more than Baker Mayfield is when it comes to the NFL I'm talking about here. But I don't want Baker Mayfield on my dynasty team either.
He's also never been like Matthew Stafford's earned his stripes in the NFL to where even if he struggles, he's going to stay that starting quarterback for a lot longer than if Baker struggles. If Baker struggles early, he's out as their quarterback.
We're getting the defenses now. Yeah. Matthew Stafford is not getting benched this year. If he's god awful, he's not getting benched because that team is so awful. They might be going to get the 101 next year anyways. Caleb Williams, that's not like, I don't think they're going to be that bad, but like, they're going to get a top 5 pick next year.
Grove came back in to check how his team's doing. I know it's auto draft, but again, never draft a kicker until the last round. Dynasty redraft, no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, and look, it wasn't Justin Tucker. Bad for Grove's brand. Also, I don't really care about a kicker's age either, by the way.
No, I literally don't care anything about a kicker. If they're projected to score points that week, they can start on your team.
All right, let me just pick a team so we can. Oh, wait, that's cool. I don't know why I thought it was me for a second.
Might as well finish it out. We only have 2 picks left.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, I guess there's only 2 picks left. That's why a kicker went. But
Yeah, I mean,
a defense
it's
is
getting to
definitely
that
more
point,
important than a kicker. But also defenses fluctuate so much year to year. There are those teams who always are a dominant defense, but there's also so many times where a team's the best defense one year and then the next year they're horrible. Also, don't sleep on having the best. It's hard to predict, but the best defense a lot of times is the team who gets the most punt return and kick return touchdowns. Like New England 2 years ago would score like 20 points a game off kick return and punt returns.
Off the top of my head here, I'm going through and gonna try to pick a couple teams. I've got it full screen so everybody can see all the teams. I think like I said, Super Fantasy Bros picked a really good team to build for the future. And they even like picked up some guys that like Mike Evans could have a great season this year, Calvin Ridley, that are going to help them be competitive this year. T. Higgins, Jahmyr Gibbs, even like those guys, Jordan Addison, are still going to be competitive this year. I love that. Who's somebody else? Who's another team that looks really good as far as like win now, especially?
I think Cardane's in a win now. I think he's set up pretty nicely.
Yeah, I agree. Love getting Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb. Chris Godwin ain't bad there. Oh, I actually do like Cole's first like 5 picks a lot too.
Yeah, I do like, yeah, Cole's team's good. I have to really, it's going to take me, I need to look at the teams for a little bit longer to
Yeah, I know.
be able to
It's
break
hard.
them down.
It's
Especially
hard.
looking at like this where it's like just like spread up across the.
And that's not really the point of this. The point is to like show you guys, the viewers, like what the values of every pick are. Like it's not necessarily like this is the team that's going to go win. A team drafted well because they got picks at the right value, basically.
Like Joey's team started really strong. I feel like that Kirk Cousins pick really sent him for a tailspin.
I guess I'll pick a kicker now.
Right,
I mean, I love my wide receiver room, honestly. AJ Brown, JSN, Jerry Jeudy, Jahan Dotson. Set up for the future really well.
Yeah, I'm not in love with my wide receiver room, but I'll take it for what my quarterback or my running back situation looks like.
For sure. Yeah. Any other last thoughts general about startup leagues?
I mean, they're a lot of fun. If this is your first time getting into Dynasty and you're watching this to get ready for your startup draft, you're in for a great time. It's arguably like my favorite thing to do. Why we have a podcast about it. It's like there's no off season. If you love fantasy, it's literally nonstop fantasy. So
big thing is just like look at these mock drafts, look at average draft position, and just make sure you're getting the guys at the right value. Like if you love a player, wait to get that player. If you don't get him, it's a good thing that you waited, because reaching for a player is not worth it. That's basically my overall. Get players at the right value. Don't hate a player, hate a player's value.
And trust your gut too, because you're going to be looking at this team probably every day. So if you're between 2 players and your gut's telling you to go one way, I always say go that way. I know it's not really based on any stats, but you are going to be looking at the team all the time.
All right, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the mock. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on all social medias. And, of course, make sure to go look at our merchandise as well. The link is in the description, so go ahead and take a look. We appreciate you. For now, that was Death by Dynasty with the mock draft, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.